everybody. It's Rock Talk with the Doc Rocker. I'm Jeff Bonal. We'll join with the Doc Rocker, Dan Tenarlato, and we are doing our homework album reviews. Now, this week, we traveled back in time. We got two classic albums. I believe they're both from 1973, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you might be
right.
We
have Black Sabbath, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and we have Rick Wakeman's second studio album, The Six Wives of Henry VIII, released in January 1973, the year I was born. Okay, let's talk first about Black Sabbath. And this is an album that you never heard before, I don't think.
No, never heard any of it. This was all fresh.
This is, I believe it's
Sabbath Sabbath sounded kind of familiar. Maybe I heard parts of that one before, but like the whole thing.
Well, Metallica did a cover of that. Metallica did a cover
that.
Of that.
Maybe what I've heard, because that sounded like I was like, I think I heard this before. But
okay, let's start with Sabbath. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It was not anything of what I expected. I wasn't too impressed. I didn't love it. This is probably going to get me crucified for just kind of pooping all over this. I don't want to say it was bad, because it wasn't. It wasn't bad at all. It was good music. It was solid Sabbath. It was solid 70s heavy metal. And for the longest time, I never understood why people considered Led Zeppelin to be one of the earliest heavy metal bands. I never got that as a musician, because for me, heavy metal was like stuff on Paranoid. That was like early heavy metal. And Led Zeppelin just didn't sound like that. This album cleared that up for me, because it sounded like Sabbath was playing Led Zeppelin. There were a lot of moments where I'm like, this sounds so much like Led Zeppelin, it's not even funny. And not that I don't love Led Zeppelin, because I do, especially the really early stuff. It's not my favorite style of music generally. I'm not really kind of big on that sort of thing. I'm not big on like a lot of like the, like a lot of acoustic guitar heavy kind of stuff, same couple of chords, like real kind of repetitive stonery kind of stuff. It just didn't hit me in a way that I thought it would. I was kind of expecting more along the lines of some of their other things. Did Paranoid come out before this or after?
Yes. This I believe is their fifth album.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I love their self-title. I love Paranoid. That's like, for me, that's like the height of Sabbath with Ozzy. I really didn't love how Ozzy sounded on this one. I didn't like his singing all that much. I didn't think it was very good. And that might just be, my own particular tastes and sort of lofty standards, especially after, the last couple weeks back, we did all like the Heaven and Hell and talked about all the Dio stuff, and like just kind of seeing where they went after this. I'm like, I kind of see why eventually they threw Ozzy out and had to get a new frontman, because like it really wasn't his best singing. Like, and I love Ozzy. He's one of my favorite metal singers of all time. I love what he does. I love all the aspects of his range, his lower stuff, his higher stuff. I think a lot of this was too high. It just sounded like, and it wasn't that he couldn't hit the notes. It just didn't have a nice sound to it that I liked. It didn't kind of have that, like that real, like fires of hell kind of scream kind of quality that I would sometimes look for in Ozzy's voice. Last couple tracks, I kind of zoned out during them. Like, Who Are You Looking For Today? Like, yeah, kind of catchy, say the name of the song a bunch in the chorus, but like, I'd say by the fifth track, Killing Yourself to Live, I was like, yeah, probably not ever going to do this one again. I mean, the title track to open it was pretty solid, and it had a lot of great riffs from Iommi. A lot of the riffs were solid. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is Sabbath. They're kind of doing something different, but it's still Sabbath. And as it progressed after Sabracadabra, and I got into Killing Yourself to Live, and the further it went on, the less it sounded like real Black Sabbath, and the less I liked it. And by the time Spiral Architect came and went, I was like, meh, whatever.
Yeah, this was probably the first time that Sabbath really stretched out, is on this album, really.
Yeah. And for that, I could commend them, and if there are any fans out there, anyone who's like watching our show that's like really big on this album and really likes it, I understand why you like it. Because it's different, it's colorful, it's creative, they stretch themselves musically, and you can never knock an artist for doing that. Disturbed did the same thing with their most recent. They had a big departure, and while I didn't like it musically, I respect that they did that, because otherwise you're just doing the same shit over and over again, and that's equally offensive. So Yeah, so sorry to poop on it, Jeff, but I
Oh
just
no, hey, no, I didn't know how you're gonna see that. The cool thing about this is I don't know how you're gonna react to these bands, which is a great thing because you're first of all you've listened to Black Sabbath mainly through Dia,
yeah
so that's a different band from what you're
yeah
listening to here, and it's okay not to like it. Me personally, I love this album
okay
for a lot of reasons why you don't, because it's not because and I don't see the Led Zeppelin comparison as much as you do, but now that you mentioned I could, yeah, okay, I get it.
mm-hmm.
And it does contain my favorite Black Sabbath song, which is the second track, National Acrobat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh great riff. I just love everything about that song.
Yeah, that one I liked. I thought that was one of the highlights of the album.
I know, like I mentioned, Metallica did a cover of Sabbath Cadabra, but they also did a cover of National Acrobat. They kind of mixed the two songs together, which I didn't think they did a very good job with it, but that's maybe where it sounded kind of familiar to you was because of that. With their Garage, I think it was the Garage Inc. album or something. As far as like Ozzy's voice, I always loved Ozzy's voice, but I would always think in the back of my head, like, okay, he's not like a singer like Dio is. You know, he's not a trained vocalist. And yeah, it's sometimes in that album, because I did revisit it last week because
Naturally.
of this. And yeah, there's some parts where it's like, yeah, he's really pushing it there, and it's probably why
out of
they
his
don't.
league, yeah.
When they did this song, the title track on their reunion tour, he actually sang it low in a lower register because there's no way he's hitting those notes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually kind of interesting how he reworked his vocal line to fit now. But again, that track is really cool. If you want to hear a cool version of that, Anthrax does a great cover of that, of Sabbath Plays Sabbath, as does Bruce Dickinson. He did it on one of the Black Sabbath album.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Bruce does a really good cover of Sabbath by Sabbath. Like I said,
I would love to hear Bruce sing that. That would be a perfect fit.
Anthrax does a great cover too.
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna like the album because again, like I said, they stretch out.
It's more diverse. It's varied, and I could totally. As I was listening to it, I was like, I know why Jeff recommended this, because like I'm into like more like proggy kind of stuff and stuff. A little more like every song is something different, and that definitely happens here. You definitely get a lot of, but for me, like it didn't have the same that like real deep level of integration, like with a Dream Theater song that goes in 15 different directions. There's still some kind of like through line. And a lot of moments for this album, for me, it sounds like here's like a metal group that's not really quite cut out for like the more progressive, adventurous kind of stuff, and they're just kind of slapping 5 or 6 different songs and stitching them together and doing that. And yeah, you could commend it because it's different, and they're not just doing the same old shtick again. But it just didn't satisfy me musically. I didn't enjoy it.
Fair enough, and that's part of what I believe makes this little podcast we do about reviewing albums interesting, is because you got we have a lot of the same tastes. A lot of times they intersect, overlap, but sometimes it's like, I think he's gonna like this, and you're like, I don't know, man. And maybe a lot of it maybe because of the age too.
Yeah,
like the
pretty picky.
production of it.
That could be pretty selective.
Yeah, the production of it is now that I listen to it again, it's kind of thin sounding compared to a lot of other stuff. Like I said, I went back to it for the first time in a while in the last couple of weeks, and I mean, I still enjoyed it a lot more than you. But
well, I'm glad you like it.
That's to be said. Maybe a lot of it may be nostalgic with a lot of this stuff, because I'm going back and I'm listening to stuff that I haven't listened to in a long, long time. Some of it I'm enjoying. Some of it I'm like, ooh, why did I like this in the first place? So that's a lot of the musical journey that we're doing here with the Rock Talk podcast, is for me going back to re-listen to a lot of this stuff. Now, moving on from Sabbath to Rick Wakeman, who, by the way, played keyboards on that album. No, it's not completely different. Oh, my dog is barking at me. Hello, Lucy. Hi. You like the Lucy?
Little cameo appearance. Yeah.
Hey, Luce. Hi.
Oh, there.
All right, Liz. Okay, would you like to leave? I think Lucy wants to leave, so this is where I'll edit this out. The Six Wives of Henry VIII, second studio album by Rick Wakeman, solo. January 1973, it was released. And like I mentioned, the connection between the two is Rick Wakeman played on Sabbath Sabbath. And that's why you recommended this to me, I think, is because I mentioned to you last time, hey, this album features Rick Wakeman. And you're
That
like,
part
hey.
I totally forgot, honestly. And for me,
Yeah.
Rick Wakeman couldn't save Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Because
Well, okay.
he is my god. I love Rick Wakeman. He's my favorite keyboard player.
Well, you know what? Like it's pretty obvious that he is pretty much a god among piano players, we'll say.
Yeah,
Keyboard players,
he's every keyboard player's dream.
This is an instrumental progressive rock album. Its concepts based on Rick's interpretation of the musical characteristics of All the Wives of Henry VIII, which sounds pretentious and horrible. But you know what? It's beautiful. It's elegant. It's musical. It's great classical music. There's tons of piano, organ, church organ. There's like a Moog synthesizer. There's a mellotron. There's a harpsichord. There's all these really neat instruments. There's also, like I always do after I listen to it a couple times, I have to read into it a little bit. Some of the guys from Yes play on it, which is really cool. Bill Bruford, Steve Howe, Chris Squire, Alan White. So you got a bunch of great musicians playing on this thing. It's like a love child between like Yes and ELP and King Crimson and all these like 70s prog bands. Like it feels like that. It's a fun album. It serves as great background music, I'll say. Just like most instrumental albums do to me. Like they're not albums I will listen to and just listen to. Like I put them on in the background mainly. Even like, I was gonna say even like Steve Vai, but that's different. Steve Vai to me that's the pinnacle of instrumental music. Like when I listen to his stuff, I have to listen to it. It's like I take that in like I take in a Black Sabbath album or an Iron Maiden album. This is background music. It was good. It was cool. I liked how each song was different because it was a different like mood, a different characteristic of
literally
one of the lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone was supposed to be a different person. So that was really cool. Anne of Cleves was a really cool track. The instrumentation on that one was like brilliant. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
There's lots of melody and feeling.
The organ sound. It's a nice quick jam. That one's
fun. All these songs, they all create a different mood. Like you close your eyes and it's like, Jane Seymour was like very medieval sounding, Mm-hmm. Then you got this Moog section coming in. It's just like, it was killer. I was like I said, it's just like a lot of these songs like transport you somewhere. You close your eyes and you just kind of take it all in. And that's probably what it was meant to do. I'm sure this was written with altered state of consciousness in mind, we'll say. This was 1973.
In the basement, put on the vinyl, do your thing.
Yeah, and the black
Go
lights.
to your headspace.
Yeah. Yep. The 6th track, Catherine Parr, I believe and that's a great album. I think closes great. Doesn't overstay its welcome. It is an older album, so it really can't. So in closing, it's a good mix of classic rock with prog rock, and I love like the synth sounds of the 70s. That 70s synth sound that like I really dig that. So it's antiquated, but it's still cool sounding. Overall, the music's great. The concept is cool. It's classical. It's a classic instrumental prog rock album. And if anyone that likes prog rock or instrumental music hasn't heard it, listen to it. There was a couple tracks on there, a couple parts of that I recognized. Like I know I heard some of this before somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Probably in some of Rick's playing with Yes. He kind of throws in a lot of his own kind of original pieces.
Yeah.
In pretty much anything he plays. So
the more I listened to it though, the more I was like, yeah, I heard this before, or at least this part of it before, but never really dove deep into it and sat down and really took it in. It was probably being played at some hippie party I was at back in my 20s or something, because there was a lot of people I hung out with back back then that loved Yes, loved, Rick Wakeman and the whole 70s prog scene. Even though it was 1995, they were still stuck in 1975. And so I was bombarded by, on one end, one group of friends who just liked that stuff. Like nothing after 1981 was good. Then there was the other group of friends that, oh my God, I had to listen. If I had to listen to the Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy album again, I would kill myself, So I'd rather go this way. So yeah, I heard some of this before, but it's really good. It's good stuff, and it's going to be on the list of things that I'll listen to when I'm doing other stuff, when I'm either editing some video or cleaning the house or drinking or whatever. Or you come over.
Right on.
It was good. It was solid. It was solid. So.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I was hoping you would. For me, this was my introduction to Rick Wakeman. And I think it's a really fitting introduction. So anyone who, like, if you want to look at like different, like big giants in the prog world, or like even just really great rock keyboard players, check it out. It's definitely it's a really good, perfect sample platter of everything this guy can do, I think. And then some, all the different sounds that he creates, all the different types of styles that he likes to play with. I think it's all here in a nice, neat, tight package. And I can't tell you how many 100 times I've listened to this since I got it from my piano teacher back in the day. Instant favorite.
It's good, and you're right. You can hear Yes in this album. I mean, when you listen to him play, and you listen to any Yes album that he's on. I think he joined. I don't remember when he joined Yes, but he's not on all. Not on the first couple. I don't think. Right?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know Yes all that well.
Yeah, but you could tell it's him when you hear Rick Wakeman, except for apparently on the Sabbath album. Except for that one song, the Who Are You, when he's playing that synthesizer, that's like Rick Wakeman right there, yeah. Because the same kind of sound he uses in a couple of these songs, the synth sound. But yeah, I'm sorry that I gave you a bummer for this week, but
it was one of those, even though I didn't like it, I'm glad I listened to it, because it was one of those, like, I like Sabbath, I should check out all their stuff, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm glad I listened to it, and now I know exactly what that album has to offer and what to expect. And now I know why, if I'm going through like a whole discography, I'm gonna like pick and choose which ones I would actually want to go through and which ones I'd want to skip. So thank you.
There you go. There's our album review homework for this week. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, I still give it a thumbs up, even though you don't. And Six Wives of Henry VIII. Rick Wakeman, definitely. As far as like prog rock instrumental stuff go, it's good. It's solid. It does sound dated, I'll give you that. But it does sound like a product of the 70s, but that's not a bad thing. So there you go. Rock Talk with the Doc Rocker Facebook group. Sign up, and of course, subscribe to our channel here. And we'll see you next time.